Coming up on iOS today, it's time to sleep. Yes, Rosemary Orchard and I are talking about apps to help you track your sleep, to help you fall asleep, to help you stay asleep. And of course, I'll be throwing in some sleep science along the way. We also cover the news, including some interesting information about Apple's privacy labels, answer a few of your questions, including switching to iOS while keeping your Google contacts. And of course, we round things out with our picks of the week. It's all that and everything in between on iOS today. Stay tuned. Oh, and before we begin, you should definitely go fill out the TWiT audience survey if you haven't yet. It ends in February. It's twit.tv/survey21, where you can go take a few minutes, fill out your answers. And of course, that helps us understand all of you out there. No personally identifying information. You don't have to put in your email address or anything like that. Just answer the questions that you want to answer and let us know who you are. We do appreciate that. twit.tv/survey21.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Yay, I did it the right way this time. Hello and welcome back or to iOS Today, the show where we cover all things iOS, tvOS, watchOS, iPadOS. It's all the OSs all the time here on iOS Today. I am one of your hosts, Mikah Sargent.
And I am Rosemary Orchard on the halfway around the globe from Mikah.
Yes, we were just talking about how we're kind of almost exactly opposite times. I am enjoying the start of my day, and you are sort of winding down for the day there in beautiful Europe. I can't remember where you are exactly.
I moved back to the UK, but it's okay. I was a bit of a butterfly before that, so I'm not going to blame you for misremembering.
Thank you. Back when I lived in Missouri, all of the people that I podcasted with always thought I was from Chicago because they were just like, oh, you're from the Midwest. You must be from Chicago. And so, yeah, it's just kind of
I had no idea the Midwest was so small, and I thought it was supposed to be quite a large area. Oh, well.
I mean, yeah, there's okay. Well, we won't get into it because some people from the Midwest don't like to claim certain parts of the Midwest as part of the Midwest, and others do. And so it's just it's a dangerous thing. But certainly where I was in St. Joseph, Missouri, in Kansas City, Missouri, in Springfield, Missouri, and in Columbia, Missouri, those were all very well in the Midwest. And we all walked around saying "ope" to one another because that is the Midwest, the Midwest cry, as it were. Anyway, that is not what today's episode's about. In fact, today's episode is about one of my just a topic that is close to my heart. I used to do a podcast called Lucid that was all about sleep science and dream interpretation. And so a pal of mine and I, we would talk about a given sleep topic, and then we would have people send in their dreams for us to interpret. And typically the dream interpretation was meant to be kind of funny. It was the funny haha portion of the show, but the sleep science was all very serious in the sense that, you know, we went out and did our due diligence, did our research on different topics. And so because of that, I have gained quite a bit of knowledge over time about sleep and how important sleep is, and different parts of sleep. And so I'm really pumped today to be talking about sleep tracking, and kind of everything that goes within that. So if you folks out there are wanting to know more about your sleep, are wanting to maybe make some draw some conclusions from little bits of data, we've got some apps and things that you can use to figure that out. And up first is one you don't even have to pay for, right, Rosemary?
Yeah, exactly. The first one that we've got here, you don't even have to download it and install it. It's on your device. It's the Health app. And the beauty of the Health app is, of course, everybody should have it. And sleep tracking was added with iOS 14. So if you haven't gone in and had a look at it yet, then that's something you should do. I've added it to my favorites. So if we just scroll down a tad, then it's right here. And you can see some of my sleep data. Yeah, I'm really showing you how much I slept. It's really difficult to fake sleep data. Did you know that? And what I love about this is you can have a sleep schedule. And it showing you here is highlighting the top and the bottom, which is when I'm supposed to go to sleep. You can see I'm not doing a very good job of going to bed when I'm supposed to versus getting up when I'm supposed to. I am doing a good job of that. So maybe I just need to go to bed on time and that will solve all of my problems. We'll see. But you can see things based over a week or a month. And you can actually set up a schedule. So if you work different days of the week or you just have different start times, then you can set that up. It is a little fiddly to have to go in and tweak things every single day if you've got a different schedule every day. But at the same time, anybody who works on a shift basis is probably already going to know that pain and understand it. I love the fact that it always shows you next. So if I tap into here, then I can see and I can drag my bedtime around and put it back to different places. So I'm probably going to go to bed around about 11 o'clock tonight because tomorrow's the weekend. So I'm not going to get up until 8. And that's going to give me 9 hours to rest and relax and hopefully get some great sleep. Now, the other brilliant feature about sleep and the sleep tracking here is it has some slightly different sounds. So theoretically, we should be able to hear just about some of the different sounds that you can use. And these are nicer sounds.
They're really nice, yeah.
Yeah, and I find that these are considerably less jarring than the which is the standard iOS alarm. I just set a generic alarm on my phone the other day without thinking about it, and I practically stuck myself through the ceiling when it went off because it was just such a jarring sound. And I was there going, whoa, okay, that really, that hit me like a ton of bricks and a taser all at the same time. But I love the fact that it shows you whether or not you're consistent. And the way that all of this works is based on both your iPhone usage and your Apple Watch. So if you have an Apple Watch, of course, you're going to be getting way better results out of this, just because the watch is going to be attached to your wrist while you sleep. And of course, with any of these, you're going to want to charge your watch not while you're sleeping, because if you charge your watch while you're sleeping, then your watch isn't going to be getting that movement data of you waving your wrist around as you sleep. But I found, honestly, putting my watch on charge first thing in the morning for a little bit as I get ready for the day, and then I usually pop it on charge around about 9 until it hits max, and I get those wonderful notifications that say, hey, your Apple Watch is fully charged, so I can put it back on. And I just love how this works. It automatically uses the alarm on your Apple Watch if you're wearing your Apple Watch. If you're not wearing your Apple Watch, so I've had it occasionally where I forgot to charge it for a couple of days and it was totally dead, then it will wake me up using the alarm on the phone. And if you set it up, so in Control Center, you have bedtime, then I've got automations running through shortcuts. That's what's just popped up at the top here. But if I swipe down into the notification center, you can see this has gone quite dark now. On my actual phone screen itself, things are really, really, really dark. And
yes.
Usually my brightness is much, much brighter. So it automatically adjusts things like that for you. And I just find that, the way that this ties together, it automatically has a couple of apps that you might want to use. And you can set that up too. So if we scroll down to the bottom, then under the options, you can see everything. And you can also manage the sleep in the Apple Watch. But you can also track your time in bed with your phone and things like that, which, maybe you want to know, maybe you don't want to know, but it's all right here. So you can see it. And it's got some tips as well about getting a good night's sleep and all of that. And
I like that there are little insights. In the past screen, it shows you, you, for example, can celebrate that you have pretty consistent sleep average. So the amount of time that you are asleep is pretty average, which is nice to know because those little insights are what make a difference, I think, in how you change your activity between them. And that's one of the things that I appreciate that Apple has added over time, because the health app used to be much less about kind of insights into your data and more just a storage place. So they're slowly kind of building out different parts of the app, and sleep has been one of the focuses that I think is really improved upon that.
Yes, definitely. And I think that really shows here, where if we pop into the full schedule and options and then down, we've got wind down, which you can set to any period of time pretty much before you go to bed. Anything from 15 minutes to, I think, 3 hours 45 is the maximum. I have that set to 45 minutes before I go to sleep. But there are also wind down shortcuts, which are things you can have on your home screen, which will then be available to you. So it suggests things like journaling or mindfulness, music, podcasts, reading, wrapping up your day with a couple of different things. And if you add any of these, so say, for example, I want to do some daily yoga, then I can just add that daily yoga right here. And then if I am in sleep mode, this is obviously going to not let me demo it because I'm connected to the dock connector. It would usually have, let's try looking, and there we go. Here we go. So you should just about see here in the middle, there's a button for shortcuts. And if you tap on that, then it opens up a menu with those things on it. So I can see that my alarm's on, and if I tap that, I can change it or skip it. I can open the yoga, I can open day one, or I can run one of my actual shortcuts, which works really well for me. And I love the fact that this really takes over your phone, but in the best possible way to encourage you to sleep.
Yes, the bedtime feature is my favorite feature that's come out in iOS 14 because of that. I have that set to come on, and it really has made a difference in me. It almost makes it more difficult to get into your phone too, because you have to sort of swipe up twice to dismiss the bedtime and then unlock your phone. And so I'm less likely to pick up my phone and try to get into it and need to do things with it. And because the notifications aren't there, and this is a psychology thing, a psychology feature, it is because the notifications don't show there, you don't have that, what we now call FOMO, but is a much baser biological imperative, it seems, where our anxiety kind of rises and we fixate on needing to know what those notifications might be saying. And so without being able to see them, you don't even need to worry about that. It all is kind of tucked away as you get tucked into bed. And I think that's very helpful. And you actually taught me something there that I didn't realize with bedtime, which was the seeing those shortcuts. I knew you could pull up the shortcuts, but I didn't know that you could skip an alarm or change the alarm right from that menu, which is nice because on occasion you might maybe for some reason that a holiday means that you don't need to set an alarm for the next day, but you don't want to mess up your sleep schedule overall that you've set up within the app. So that's nice that you can just say, okay, I'll skip the alarm for tomorrow, but keep things normal overall. And the same thing with that next screen that you showed earlier, that you can just make adjustments for the next day.
Yeah, I really love that. And I have to say it works really well if you're, for example, not feeling very well. Last week I was recovering from an ear infection and I wasn't, going to my day job every day. So I tapped on the thing and I could just say, okay, I'm still not going to go to work tomorrow. I'm going to skip tomorrow's alarm, or I might start work later tomorrow, skip the alarm and just see how well I sleep and how well it goes. And that really helps, remove the stress factor of, oh, wait, did I set an alarm? Because the default is your alarm is set on the days that you've got it set up. And it's only if you manually go in and override it during that bedtime period that it will turn off, which is just great. Absolutely.
All right, so let's talk about some of the apps that are suggested in the bedtime stuff, like an app that helps you with sleeping soundly and falling asleep. And I want to talk briefly about this type of app, an app that provides, maybe white noise or pink noise or brown noise or rain or what have you. There's actually sleep science that goes into these types of apps, because as our bodies go from the first stage of sleep to the second stage of sleep to the third stage of sleep and back up to 2, up to 1, and then to REM and back down to 3, 2, 1 REM. That's how our circadian rhythm works, up and down, up and down, up and down. And as we get down into those deeper stages of sleep, for some reason, if our brains and our ears, which are of course connected to our brains that process the sound waves that we hear, if our brains have a consistent sound playing in the background, be that, some people say they can't fall asleep without a fan, and then, sometimes their partners are like, that doesn't make any sense. No, it does actually make sense, because if our brains have something like that that it can focus on, that it can hear, then it is less likely that disruptions of sound will affect that person. So, for example, if in the middle of the night the wind blows, as it happened here recently, the wind was blowing so hard that tree limbs fell. If you have a consistent sound like, again, a fan running, your brain is more likely to not be roused from sleep by something like the sound of a limb falling suddenly in the middle of the night. So actually listening to sounds like that can help you not only fall asleep, but stay asleep longer, because of the way that our brains kind of use that sound as a baseline, and it lets us filter out other sounds that might be affecting sleep.
Yeah, and I have to say that's worked really well for me. So, I think it started in December or so. I was starting to have a bit of trouble sleeping. I think it's just one of these things it's the time of year, it's that time of the pandemic, and all of these things, not been going places and so on. I've been working from home since March last year, and it eventually started affecting my sleep when I wasn't sleeping well. And I remembered I have this app and I've been using it, on and off since it was released, because it's a great app. And that app is Dark Noise. And Dark Noise is obviously a bit of a play on the name, on the word white noise, but it's a noise application with a difference in that it doesn't just have your standard noise. It also has things like a spaceship engine. So you should just about, be able to play things like spaceship engines. It's also got gray noise, thunderstorm, and all sorts of other things. And what I love about this app is, of course, I can go through and heart things, which is why I've got my favorites: spaceship engine, rain, distant thunder, writing, and things like that. But it writing also has, it's also got things like a desk fan, an air conditioner, a microwave, or windy trees, beaches, a cat purring, campfire, fireworks, freight train, coffee shop, and things like that. This is not just intended for, you to listen to go to sleep. This is intended as background noise for your daily life so that you can get yourself into various habits and so on with it. But what I love is you can create custom sounds. So if I that would be deleting it. If I swipe on this one, I've created a one called Custom Rain, where what I've done is I've overlaid a couple of different sounds. So I've got drippy rain, heavy rain, rain, and windy trees. And I've adjusted the volume levels of each of these so that I can, I get the sound that I want. And you can build icons and things like that for it. But then when I start playing it, then I'll just pause that, because otherwise I'm hearing it through my headphones, but it's not outputting to Skype. As we can see, it's going to system capture, and I don't really want to start playing it on all of the HomePods in the house. But it's got, this interface. When you play, then it does have animation by default, but it automatically has a sleep timer. And you can say turn it off at this time. So for example, the time that you're supposed to get up, or you can say turn it off after. And I usually go with half an hour, actually. I had 45 minutes the other day because I thought I was going to have difficulty getting to sleep. But spoiler alert, I fell asleep very, very quickly because I'm used to listening to this sound while I sleep. And the fact that it works on my phone, and I can AirPlay automatically to any device, because Dark Noise is not just a noise application. It is well worth the $6 it costs, because it's got full shortcut support. So that means that, and I'm just going to have to turn this on again, and I'll lock my screen and unlock my screen. This right here, Rain to Sleep, that's going to run my shortcut, and it's going to play this noise on my bedroom HomePod. Very specifically. So it will automatically set it to play for 30 minutes to my bedroom HomePod, and that's it. Done. You know, there's no thinking about it. That's exactly what it does, and that's the end of it. And I love this so much because it makes my life so much easier. It allows me to actually, you know, enjoy going to sleep because I know I'm going to have this sound. And if I decide, hey, you know what? I don't know, the drips of the rain, they're a bit too much. I think I'd like some more wind. I can adjust this custom sound that I've built for myself or build a new custom sound. And I love that custom sound set. What you can also do, if we pop into the select noise, up in the top left, we can go in. There's all sorts of things. So iCloud syncing, so it'll sync your custom noises between devices. There's widgets and so on. But there's also this section called Dark Labs. And Dark Labs has this wonderful feature called Mix Audio. And Mix Audio means you can have this play with something else. So for example, if you like to listen to podcasts to fall asleep, but you also feel like just people talking and nice clean audio is, you know, it's a bit difficult if there's a storm outside or there's foxes running around, something like that. You can have this mix audio, so you can have dark noise play and something else.
How does it do that?
I can't remember, but it's doing it completely legitimately. The developer, Charlie Chapman's very responsible on Twitter, so I'm sure if somebody asks him, he will tell us the answer. But he is, doing that so that you can actually have multiple sounds play at the same time. And this plays in the background and it overlays or underlays rather to whatever else you're playing. It's amazing. And I love it.
That's really cool. Yeah, we might have to have the developer on to talk about that because I'm just curious about that in general. I believe that it's done completely legitimately. I just am curious what tool lets you do that you can essentially create kind of a mixer out of your iPhone or iPad to have multiple streams. So that somehow can play while you go to a completely different app and play something from there. And does that work on both the device itself and on sending it to a HomePod?
I haven't used that with sending it to a HomePod, I have to confess. I've only used it with AirPods and so on. But I suspect it wouldn't, because I think the way that the mix audio is working is it's background noise rather than anything else.
Gotcha.
But I love the fact that there's also an Untitled Goose mode, which is based on the Untitled Goose game, and Grumpy Geese from Panic, which, spoiler, I love playing on the Nintendo Switch. I might have spent 45 minutes earlier today being a very grumpy goose and just, throwing sandwiches in a pond because it was so much fun. But, why not?
Yeah, exactly. Why not? So this next one I want to talk about is one that is near and dear to my heart as a tool that is important to my sleep, but it's something that was first introduced to me by Leo Laporte, former co-host of iOS Today, and something that he will occasionally talk about because he and Lisa will kind of combat about getting a better sleep score using this app. So I ended up, after he talked about it, I ended up purchasing it. It's called the Sleeptracker, and it's a device that you actually, so there's an Amazon listing for it, the Beautyrest Sleeptracker. It's available for $97. And what you get is this little rectangular puck that you put underneath your bed, and then you plug in two sensors, two paddles that you place underneath the mattress entirely. So between the box springs or whatever platform you have and your mattress, you place a paddle on the left side and a paddle on the right side. And so you can have two separate readings, for you and for your partner, if you have a partner that, sleeps in the same bed. And so it basically can turn your bed into a smart bed and will understand and read what your sleep is. And so it comes with a companion app. The issue that I have with a lot of apps is that they require some level of action before they will work. So, for example, some apps you have to say, okay, I'm getting in bed now and I'm laying down, so start tracking my sleep. Some you have to put your phone in bed with you. Some you can use your Apple Watch, but I am prone to forgetting to charge my Apple Watch in order to wear it to bed. I'm not bothered by wearing it. That's one of the reasons why Leo doesn't like the sleep tracking, is because he doesn't like to wear his watch to bed. That doesn't affect me as much, but the actual ability to not have to worry about that. Essentially, I can get in bed and it then will pay attention to my breath rate, my heart rate, and a bunch of other things, and use that information to figure out, is this person just sitting in their bed for some reason, or are they actually sleeping? It can tell, how long it took you to get to sleep. And then it will even, it keeps going an hour after you've gotten out of bed, just in case, you just got up to use the restroom or something like that, and then you'd be coming back. And so then it takes all of that information and it can turn it into actual understanding. And it separates it between two people, so that if you, like I said, if you do have a partner, then you can set it up. So I'll show you. The right side of the bed is mine. The left side of the bed is my partner, Sebastian. And each of us has a separate account. And so each day, when we've gotten out of bed and gone about our day, later in that day, we'll get an email from Sleeptracker with our whole analysis. And it shows you, let me see, a sleep report. It shows you your awake time, your rapid eye movement stage, your light sleep, your deep sleep, what your heart rate and breath rate were at different times. And then it also gives you trends over time. So it looks like I've gotten much more REM sleep than I usually get, which is good, and more deep sleep than I usually get, which is also good, because deep sleep is the restorative stage of sleep. REM, we don't quite know why REM is important. We only know that REM is important. And we base that on the fact that our brains protect our sleep when we get into the REM stage of sleep. And you will know about this, you being anyone listening who hasn't heard me go on about this before. If you've ever had a dream where you hear a sound and you start to kind of dream about that thing. So an alarm going off in your dream, or a cat meowing in your dream, or maybe you have to use the restroom and you have a dream about needing to use the restroom. All those kinds of things, and then you wake up and you find out, oh, in real life my alarm was going off, or my cat was meowing, or I had to use the restroom. And that is a way that we've seen. This is universal for humans, that something about REM sleep is important enough that our brains will try to keep us in REM sleep when we've gotten there, until it's time for us to exit that stage of sleep. And so that's why you hear sounds, or you experience feelings or things like that in your dreams in REM sleep, in order to keep you asleep instead of having those things rouse you from sleep. So your brain's like, hold on, let me just finish out this REM cycle. We'll get to the light sleep again. You could do things there. Just let me do this. And then it wants you to wake up. So it's kind of interesting how that works. And then, like I said, trends over the course of multiple days. You can see the different colors. So those are based on, of course, good scores are green, low scores are blue. I've had a few low scores, but mostly green. And as I said, if you've got multiple people, then you can each have your own little bit of information. So as I mentioned before, Lisa and Leo will often compare their scores, and Lisa usually gets better sleep score than Leo does. And so that's kind of a fun little challenge between them. My partner and I haven't quite fought on that, but occasionally I'll hear from him, I'm not feeling too hot, and I was looking at my sleep scores, and I just haven't been getting good sleep the past few days. And so it's really kind of cool, him being somebody who's really not all that into tech, and doesn't know is not steeped in technology. To see him get value from this and be able to use it in a way is really nice. And then it pairs with some cognitive behavioral research, so it can start to tell you, for example, your heart rate has been kind of high while you were asleep. Here are some things that you can do to adjust that. this suggestion to get regular exercise and have your meal times scheduled and also go to bed on time, of course, will make a difference. And then you can start to input information like, did you exercise yesterday? Did you eat within 2 hours of bedtime? How did you feel stress-wise? And then that information, they can start to combine to give you even more information about, okay, when you're highly stressed, you actually sleep better. For whatever reason, that's probably not likely. But it's a very powerful sleep tracking system that I have found to be quite accurate. And I base that on using other tools for sleep tracking and comparing it with this. Sleeptracker is consistent. It has worked well, and it has provided the most information about my sleep. And it integrates with the health app. So all of that information gets piped into my health app for my Apple Health app. And so I have that information there as well. I really love this thing. Honestly, anyone who wants to know more about their sleep and who is obsessed with this and with this kind of information, I think should check it out. But of course, always be mindful. In fact, it's so much of a what is the word I'm looking for? It's so much of a consideration that we've given a name to the kind of stress that gets created when someone is tracking their sleep so much that they end up getting less sleep because of it. So it's the idea that you become kind of obsessed with, am I getting enough sleep? Am I getting enough sleep? Then you get stressed out, cortisol levels raise, your heart rate is higher while you're sleeping, so you get poorer sleep, and then you can continue down on a downward trend. So use this as a way to kind of, don't use it as a way to go, I need to sleep harder. I need a better, higher sleep score. So I'm just going to sleep harder, and more use it as a way to kind of let your body tell you how you feel. And then if you're kind of going, wow, I'm a lot sleepier today than I usually am. Then you check the app and you go, oh, I did get a poorer sleep score. Oh, that's right. I had that snack right before bedtime, which of course raised my blood sugar, which raises the heart rate, which makes it harder for you to get into those deeper stages of sleep. So it's informative. It's not meant to be a coach for you that kind of tells you what to do with your sleep. So just be mindful. But given all of that, I think it is a steal at $97, truly, to have that level of information for you and for your partner. All right. What have you got that costs much less than $97 that is also for sleep tracking?
Fun fact for anybody curious, I checked on this on Amazon UK while you were talking about it, because I thought, oh, that's great. And it's nearly £200. So it's actually cheaper to get it from Amazon.com and have it shipped to the UK. But even cheaper still is Autosleep, which is a great app for not just your Apple Watch, but also from your iPhone. And it is a great, sleep tracking application, which integrates with the data that is on your iPhone and your Apple Watch anyway. So if you're tracking your sleep data with, the health app, and you decide, I'd like a little bit more data out of this, please, then you can install Autosleep and find out more. And what I like about this is I don't necessarily have to have a particular watch face on my Apple Watch or open this on my iPhone or anything in advance. I can just, and as an experiment, I uninstalled this from my Apple Watch last night and went to sleep, and you can see it still tracked all my sleep data. And then I reinstalled it this morning. And so the watch app itself doesn't necessarily do something, but essentially it can give you a bit more data. And as Micah said before, it's very much a case of if you start obsessing about this data, then you are going to sleep worse. So you have to, be a little bit more hands off about it. But what I really like is that I can be a tad more hands-on about this data. And so I can go through and I can see, okay, so overall I slept for about 8 hours, 40 minutes, and 7 of those hours were quality. So that's really good. You know, I got some really great sleep. And then I can just say, okay, I'm going to stop. Or I can have a look at the deep sleep. Okay, I got about 2 hours of deep sleep, and my heart rate was around about 72 beats per minute, which seems kind of high. But, you know, if that is indeed high, then that's something I'll talk to my doctor about, not something I'll worry about. And it also has this sleep bank idea, which is controversial. So there are thoughts that you can get ahead on sleep and catch up on sleep, and only for limited periods of time. So if I sleep, 9 hours a day this year, then I can't sleep 4 hours a day next year and be totally fine, because not sleeping enough is pretty much the same as being drunk with regards to your mental capabilities. You just can't function very well at all. So the sleep bank is something I would take with a dose of salt, but basically it's telling me I'm a bit ahead on sleep. And so if I know that, for example, tomorrow I'm going to have to be up super early, then I can make a point of getting a couple of nights of, better sleep, more sleep in advance to help try and balance it out. But what I really like about this is I can go through and just say, hey, you know what? This day I didn't really see that, I didn't sleep very well. I want to exclude that from my history. And then when I tap into my history, then that day is excluded. Unfortunately, I did accidentally wipe all of my data earlier when playing with this. So some of this is not so easy to see. But there we go. So now we have today's data, and I can get an overview, and I can scroll back in time and get overviews for longer. So I managed to re-import some of my data here. But you can see things based on time, based on your heart rate, based on all sorts of things. And you can also export this data. So one of the things that I struggle with the health app is that it's kind of tricky to actually export data. Now, you can export data and you get it out as a massive file, and that's fine. But what I really like is this data here can all be exported. So I can actually say, you know what, I just want to, go through and actually get all this out. Oops. And the other thing that I can do is I can actually tap on any individual day, and I can say, hey, you know what, I wasn't very well, and I had a glass of wine. And then I can log that data. And then I can actually go through in the future and filter for that, so that I can say, hey, okay, so here on the days that I've had wine, I didn't sleep so well. Or, on the days where I was ill, I did sleep a lot, but I didn't get a lot of deep sleep. And I can build trends out of this. And honestly, the reason why I like this app is pretty much this emoji tracking. I can log, I was super tired when I went to bed. And guess what? I got 2 hours, 1 minute of deep sleep, because that's what I'm looking at here. Or 8 hours, 38 overall. And I can go back and review that at any time. And you have this clock view as well, which is somewhat similar to the setup that you had when you were setting things up in the health app. And you can also, manually go through and adjust things and calibrate it and teach it, what was right and what was wrong about your sleep. Did I really sleep like that? Actually, yeah, that's pretty much spot on. But it's got some other options where it can say, hey, okay, you seem to have you were awake a lot and very disrupted, or fairly disrupted, or overall good, or absolutely stunning. You went to bed at 11:15 and you were asleep at 11:15 and you woke up at 8:57. And you can have it learn things as well and integrate it with all sorts of things. And you can use iPhone motion to indicate that you're awake. But if you then fall asleep and you've got your iPhone in bed, that's, obviously going to notice that and say that you didn't sleep as well. So I really like this for taking the data that you have and just improving on it a little bit. And so that there's not really a huge amount that needs doing, but this can be on your iPhone and or Apple Watch and give you a bit more data. And so you can see an overview of how much you slept in your day and add some more data to it for your own personal tracking.
Cool. That all has integrations with the health app too, right?
Yeah, it does. So if you when you first install it and set it up, then it has this wizard, which hopefully I can show you here, and it will take data directly from your Apple Watch, and you can say that you don't wear your Apple Watch and you don't want to use it to track data, and what hour you're going to bed, what's quiet time, if your iPhone should be used, and things like that. But the first time you install it, it should ask you if it can access your health data, so that it can get that information, because otherwise it can't get the information from your Apple Watch, and that that's very difficult for it to do without knowing what's going on there, like your heart rate and things like that. So it's taking that data directly from your Apple Watch and the health rate, and it also accesses blood oxygen now with the Series 6 watches if you've got that.
Oh,
I'm not quite sure how it uses it, but it uses that.
Yeah, that's cool.
Well, the next one, hopefully I can do it, is its sister application, AutoWake. And AutoWake is one that you need to set up on your Apple Watch and have it appear on the face. And I'm not going to be able to show you this because I can't bend my wrist that way. So this is my watch upside down, and if I tap the face to turn it on, there we go. You can just about see there's a big time, and then I have something that says off, and this is AutoWake. And what I do is I use the sleep tracking and in the health app, and whenever bedtime starts, it runs a shortcut automatically. And this is something you can do with the shortcuts app, and you can set a watch face. So I have it set this watch face for me when I go to bed. So that means that AutoWake is always on my watch face when I go to sleep, because bedtime starts and it sets my watch face, and that's it, I'm done. And AutoWake essentially attempts to figure out when you're moving in the morning, or you're about at that point in your sleep cycle where you can wake up, and then it will actually go ahead and do its best to wake you at what seems to be the right time. Now, obviously, it is not perfect, but it's $2.99 and pairs with the $3.99 Autosleep as well for more data. And it has different alarms, and you can have fixed times or flexible times, or you can say, okay, any time in this window, with the latest time here, and it just works really, really well. So you install the watch app, you add the complication to your Apple Watch. I use a different watch face for sleep, which is the time in big red, and then this complication, and that's it, because the big face can only do that. And then it does need your iPhone to be there. So you've got to have Bluetooth enabled on your iPhone, and you need to put your iPhone on charge overnight. But most people do that. And then it attempts to wake you at the right time. And I've had a pretty good success rate with it, actually. It's one of those things where I do use the health app as a backup alarm, just because I've always had backup alarms my entire life, pretty much. Ever since I started using an alarm clock, there was always the ability to set 2 alarms. And so I always set another one 15 minutes after the first one, which will still, give me enough time to get up and get on with things, even if I'm feeling a bit rushed. So I still have that. But I love the fact that this works. And most mornings I wake up and I go, you know what? Yeah, I'm ready to get up. I'm feeling good. Occasionally I'm not very well, and it's I'm not getting up. I'm going back to bed. I'm turning off all my alarms, and not Thursday, please, not Thursday. But most of the time I'm feeling pretty good about things, and I don't know why, but I definitely do feel more refreshed. I don't know the science behind this, Micah. I'm sure you do, about picking the right point in the cycle to wake up, but it's one of those things. To me, it seems like black magic, and I love it.
That's what I was going to say, is that one of the things that there used to be this site back in my day, before we had all the apps that could track our sleep, there was a site I would go to. And on this site, you could type in the time that you wanted to wake up, and it would use that based on averages, because at that time we didn't have the ability to understand we did, but not on the personal level. We didn't have tech that would allow us personally to know exactly what our sleep cycles were. And so it was just using averages of what we knew about REM cycles, about sleep cycles. And so you'd type in, I want to be up by 6:30 a.m. and it would give you a time to set your alarm for that was before 6:30. That would be within your sleep cycle, based on, I'm going to go to bed at this time. So I'm going to go to bed at 9 p.m. and I want to be up at 6:30, it would say, okay, set your alarm for 6:04 or something like that. And then that way it would hit you at the perfect time because, again, the way that we go into sleep is we are awake and we start to fall down into sleep stages. And I shouldn't say a lot of people, but some people think that below the deepest stage of sleep, then you get to REM sleep, but that is not accurate. In fact, you go down into deep sleep and then you come back up and then your body kind of has a choice. Do I wake up or do I go into REM sleep? And so you go into REM sleep. And that is also because when we look at brain activity, the comparison between REM sleep and all of the other stages and wakefulness, REM is most like actually being awake. Our brains are most active in REM sleep. So it is a very wakeful state of sleep. It's just that we are still asleep. So we have to go down and then we come back up and we go into REM instead of waking up. And then we come back down and we go back up into REM. And that happens over and over again. And what these apps aim to do is if you get woken out of a deep stage of sleep, you are not in a great place. And if you get woken out of REM, as I just talked about before, it's highly unlikely, or it's less likely that you're going to be properly roused out of REM sleep. And so it won't happen at that point. And if it does, then you're going to be confused. It's not good to be woken out of REM. So what we want to do is hit you when you are in those middle stages between deep and between deep and REM sleep. And if you get woken up out of that portion of your sleep, you're more likely to feel okay, ready to go. I'm good. I can wake up. And the idea is that you've had multiple cycles. So, one down and up into REM and then coming back down and then they wake you up. You're still going to feel a little body tired. You may not feel that brain fog, but you will feel body tired. But if we can get you through multiple cycles and then wake you up, that's really the best time for it to happen. So yeah, this app aims to use what it has been programmed to understand as the different cycles to help you wake up at the proper time. And any apps that have these kind of smart alarms will do that. In fact, the Sleeptracker by Beautyrest has the ability to set smart alarms within it. And I've never used that feature just because I have my own system of trying to go to sleep and wake up. But I used to use an app that had a smart alarm that was based on my sleep cycles instead of that. So yes, that's how that works. And in fact, the next app I want to talk about, Pillow, is one of these that has a built-in smart alarm. So Pillow, first of all, it can take in your previous sleep information and use that to help kind of inform how the app works whenever you first download it. But built into Pillow are lots of different features. It's free to download with in-app purchases. And within the app, at the bottom, you've got the first stage, the first page, which is your alarms. And so I would call this Wake Up. And we'll give that an exclamation point. And I want to set the alarm for 7:25 a.m. Or I can say, I just want to take a quick 20-minute power nap. But we'll say 7:25 a.m. And then I've got little options here. Do I want to use Smart Wake Up? What that's going to do is, as I mentioned, wake up at the lightest possible sleep stage closest to your selected alarm time. So I'll say 15 minutes before. And so what that does is it's not going to be exactly 15 minutes before. It's going to use that to inform somewhere within those 15 minutes before I'm supposed to wake up, go ahead and wake me up. Then you can change the alarm sound that you want. It has these little photos that will play across the screen as it's waking up. Alarm volume. So Pillow will increase the volume gradually when the alarm goes off. And now this will use just the speaker on your device. So it can't work with the HomePod or HomePod Mini. And then you can set it up to have vibrations. And then it can also use the Apple Watch to wake you up too. Boop, 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 boom, boom, boom. And then what I love is that there are different types of deactivations. So you can long press to cancel the alarm or shake to cancel the alarm. So I like that it makes you do different. You can have that because shaking the alarm can actually be helpful to wake you up as as a person in order to cancel that alarm. And then of course it's got some smart snoozes, which says I want to snooze, but only until the next light cycle, as opposed to I want to snooze for 8 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever the snooze happens to be. It's smart about its snoozing. So those are all the options that are built in. Then we can go as far as to do audio recordings. So it will listen over the course of the night and let you hear, we thought we heard snoring, which is an important thing for sleep apnea and other considerations that you need to take into mind, and, talking in your sleep, those kinds of things, which could be indicators of more important sleep. I can't think of, there's a actual clinical word for those types of sleep issues. And then sleep aid, which is the playing music of some sort whenever you set the alarm. And then you can also have it show on the Apple Watch. So I'll choose the options for sleep aid again, just so you can see. Pillow will turn off sleep aid as soon as it detects that you have fallen asleep. So once again, paying attention to your sleep cycles based on your movement, your respiration, your heart rate, and using that to figure out when you've fallen asleep. And then, of course, you can change, hey, what do I want the volume set as? And then you choose done. And now there is an alarm that will wake you up between 7:10 and 7:25 based on your sleep cycle so that you wake up at the right time. So again, sleep aid, these are all different libraries of content that you can listen to at night. Your analysis for the day or for a calendar event. And what's kind of cool is you see the purple dot that shows this is when this is a day that's been analyzed, but I can choose a day, say the 19th of January. And so this one doesn't have any data for the 19th. So that might've been a day that that my sleep tracker was not working. There we go. So I just chose a random day, the 21st of January, and it starts to calculate that. So now there's a purple dot next to it. So you can use it to kind of look at your past days and see what the sleep quality was based on Pillow's own algorithms, what the different stages of sleep were here. So REM sleep, quite a bit. And then deep sleep and light sleep at different times. And you can put in mood information. You can add notes. You can see, hey, look, time asleep. And then it shows this little area that says the time you spend awake in bed. The most important thing to notice here is time it took to fall asleep and any time that you spent awake during the sleep session. Periods of increased restlessness where you are half awake may be interpreted as awake time. And so there's a little attention marker there just to let you know, hey, this is something that you might want to look into. Awake for just about 9 minutes, only 3 hours and 12 minutes of sleep. So I'm not quite sure why it's saying that. And then, so I guess REM sleep and light sleep, those are not well within the range. But as you can see, this was a disjointed sleep session where I was only asleep for 5 hours instead of my normal. And then it shows you your heart rate in these different stages as well, which is kind of cool. And then if there were any recordings, you can see that. So I love the historical data that it can go back and show you. And then there's the snooze lab. And what this is it's the smart features that as it gets to know you and see your sleep analysis, it can start to provide information. So we think that your best bedtime based on the information that we've been provided is actually 11:39 p.m. Very specific time, but that's a good time for you to go to sleep. And if you do that, then you're more likely to wake up on time because by 11:39, you're usually going to bed. Then it says you can be like a night owl, a lark, or something in between. And then over time, it will provide more insights there. And then last but not least is the trends page. And so it'll show you your average sleep duration, your average sleep quality, and if you fill in the information for mood and stuff like that, it can also give you that information too. So Pillow is I would argue, a full-featured app for sure that has lots of data. But most importantly, those smart alarms, I think, are something that anybody should give a shot, give a try, because it's based soundly in sleep science and can truly help you figure out, your sleep. So I think pretty cool stuff from Pillow there.
Yeah, I really like that. And I love the fact that there are so many different options out there for tracking your sleep and seeing things, because sometimes, if you're not sleeping well, it really does spill out into the rest of your life. And it has such massive knock-on effects. I mentioned earlier, not sleeping enough has exactly the same pretty much result as being drunk. So do you really want to be driving a car or, trying to do your day job if you're really deprived of sleep? The answer is probably not. And so if you can figure out, a way to improve your sleep, and that's what a lot of these apps are great for, then hopefully you'll do a little better with that.
Indeed. All right. Up next, it's time for the news. Let us see what news we have for today. So the first one is a really interesting story that I've been kind of noodling on for a little while, and I'm so glad that Jeffrey Fowler over at the Washington Post decided to look into this for me. So Jeffrey, great minds. No, I'm happy about this. So Apple announced a change that was going to be coming in iOS 14 called privacy labels. And so these are kind of nutrition facts, but based on privacy. So when you go into the App Store, let me just go into the App Store here, and I will choose an app. We'll do the Apple Developer app here. And if I scroll down, there's a section called App Privacy, and it shows you how an app is linking data, or how an app might be using your data and might be sharing that with others. So the app will collect data linked to me for app functionality. So my contact info, user content that I choose to upload, and identifiers like my user ID and the device ID. And then it will also collect for analytics some data that is not linked to me. So search history, usage data, and it will use that for analytics purposes. For app functionality purposes, it will tell like when the app has crashed and stuff like that. And then for product personalization, meaning that it'll say, here are some sessions we think that you should check out. It will use, not linked to me specifically, but it will use information tied to usage data. So that is an easy way for you to see and understand how an app is using your data and whether that data is personally linked to you or is more anonymized. So Apple mandated that apps were going to need to adopt this functionality, and we're going to need to make this part of the platform. And so for the most part, any app past, I can't remember what date, if they wanted to introduce an update to their app, they were going to need to fill out their privacy labels. And so this is a thing that the developer does within within Xcode. And Xcode is the tool that developers use to create apps for iOS. And it's important to note, as Apple says at the top of the screen, the developer, which in this case is Apple, but if it was a third-party app, the developer, greatapps.com, indicated that the app's privacy practices may include handling of data as described below. So what that means is it is the developer who says what data is or is not being used and how it is or is not being used. So Jeffrey Fowler, thinking of a really good question, said, I wonder if these developers are being accurate with their reporting of what data is or is not being used. And according to this report, not necessarily. So Jeffrey Fowler says, I downloaded a de-stressing app called the Satisfying Slime Simulator that gets the App Store's highest level label for privacy. It turned out to be the wrong kind of slimy, covertly sending information, including a way to track my iPhone to Facebook, Google, and other companies. Behind the scenes, apps can be data vampires, probing our phones to help target ads or sell information about us to data firms and even governments. So essentially this app said that it did not use any personal identifying information to track Jeffrey Fowler. However, when he was researching this app, it was the case that this app was tracking him and sending his information. So here is the problem with this. This is a requirement by Apple to faithfully and accurately say what data is being downloaded and tracked, but it is not something that Apple can. I mean, Apple can't even look at every single app and make sure that it is properly and accurately filling out this label. So I guess what I don't like about this, and Rosemary, I'm curious how you feel about it, is to a certain degree, it does give the impression, if you don't know too much, it gives the impression that you can trust what the nutrition labels are being reported. You know, what's being reported in the nutrition labels. And so I think that Apple needs to make it, I know that there's a little thing at the top that says that, but I think that Apple needs to make it exceptionally clear to say that this information has not been verified by Apple, that this is not something that Apple goes in and verifies, but instead leaves it up to the developer to do, because otherwise it almost feels like an endorsement, right?
Yeah, I mean, it does feel like that to an extent. And from what I understood, Apple was supposed to be doing, spot checks, the same way that, apps randomly get pulled on updates and the developers get told, hey, no, you can't do this, even though they've been doing it for years. And it turns out actually it's fine. And they just had to escalate it. And, then somebody goes, no, that's what this app is supposed to do. It's fine. They can do it. When things are not being verified by Apple, the way it shows up in the App Store, if you don't know any better, and let's be honest, why should you need to know better? Then you aren't going to be able to see everything and know immediately that, actually, it's entirely possible that somebody is still tracking me. Because why would you expect to not believe what you're reading in the App Store?
Right.
And we had, when the App Store launched, we had these people selling, $999 apps and things like that. And then when in-app purchases launched, we had the same thing. So I guess, we should be used to taking things with a pinch of salt now. But at the same time, it does feel like it's an endorsement and it's been checked. And if it hasn't been checked, and I can see from Apple's perspective, it's impossible to check every single application to make sure that the developers are completely doing absolutely everything that they've said, or not doing what they've said that they're not doing. But this is somewhere where indie app developers, these very, small development shops, 1 person, 5 people who genuinely care about their customers are going to do much better, because guess what? The person who's developing an app all by his lonesome, that's the entirety of his income, is much more inclined to be, truthful about that. At least you would hope, because if you decide that, what, you don't like it and you find out he's sending his data to Facebook, then there's no company there to back him up to, keep paying his salary. That's it. His money's gone if you're not going to pay for his apps anymore. So I'm hoping that we're going to see more spot checks by Apple, because it's easy for Apple to train their staff to check on this stuff. It is not easy for my grandmother, who has 2 iPads and an iPhone, to figure out that, guess what, this app that she downloaded and installed because she thought it seemed like fun, definitely wants to charge her $20 a week to color in some things, and B, actually is sending all of her data to Facebook as well. And she shouldn't have to figure that out. That should be, right there on the app page.
Agreed. Up next, this is pretty neat. So Apple has apparently introduced a new version or a new tool, a new method for protecting users on iOS. iOS has a couple of times had different types of bugs and user crashes and other issues that have threats to the operating system and thereby the user by way of iMessage. And so with the messaging app on iOS, we've seen different times where sending the proper set of characters can crash a phone. So every time you try to open the message, it crashes the phone. And if folks tap on a link within the iMessage that they get, there could be a situation where it leads to something not great. And so a Google researcher has discovered a new kind of system within iOS that is pretty nifty. And it takes a little bit of an understanding first of how these different apps work on iOS. So within iOS, you've got, your system, the whole kit and caboodle, and then you download apps to that system. So, each of my fingers, for those watching, is an app, say, and they're all part of the hand that is the system. But each of these fingers has a finger cuff around it that sort of separates it independently from the whole system, meaning that it's sandboxed. It is, if you think of a sandbox, there's a square or rectangle or some sort of frame around the sandbox so that the sand stays inside of the sandbox and it doesn't get out. And so each of these fingers, apps, has a cuff around it that keeps everything inside so that it doesn't affect the rest of the system. So that way I can doodle around with an app, and if it was a bad actor, it's not going to corrupt the rest of my system. What Apple has done is that on top of everything else, my thumb, which is the iMessage app in this case, within that, it's got the finger cuff on it that keeps it safe from the rest of the system. But they've added another layer, another finger cuff, another frame around the outside of the sandbox that is called Blast Door. And what it does, it independently opens and sort of reads. I need to reword this because I don't want anyone to think that their messages are being, read and pulled apart or anything like that. What it does is, depending on what is in that message, it can kind of open up that message and run all of the processes involved in that message and make sure that that message doesn't have anything bad in it that could hurt it. So the ZDNet article says, and I quote, "Its role is to take incoming messages and unpack and process their content inside a secure and isolated environment where any malicious code hidden inside a message can't interact or harm the underlying operating system or retrieve user data." So it's, again, an extra layer inside of iMessage that is going to keep that message or keep the user's operating system safe. There, yes, perfect. That's the message. So you can see that it comes through, it decrypts the iMessage with a private key that's available locally on your device. It then takes this information and it sends it to Blast Door, which is the name of this process. Blast Door builds the message and it kind of understands what's going on, parses the information, and then it goes, does it contain an attachment? Yes. So then it will download that attachment from iCloud. It will decrypt and store it on disk in a temporary directory. And then does the message contain serialized plugin data? So a URL with a preview image, for example. And then it will go on to use Blast Door again to generate the preview and make sure that that preview doesn't harm the device before it then shows the message and lets the user see the notification. And then the last thing, of course, is that it sends back to the user who sent the message a delivery receipt. So very cool, very nice to have that extra layer of protection in there to make sure that your iMessages are safe.
Yeah, it really is. I'm very fortunate. Neither myself nor anybody I know personally was had any of these messages that, forced iPhones into boot loops or anything like that. But it's a little bit worrying that we've got all the way to iOS 14 and that they didn't have this. I presume, obviously, there was some data sanitizing in there. But as a developer, I'm aware that pretty much every single piece of data that can be input by anything should go through some kind of sanitization before it then gets sent off to something else, because otherwise you end up with things. There's a famous XKCD comic about little Bobby drop tables where parents, enroll their kid in school and his name has a semicolon in it, which then forces all of the student data to be deleted. Basically, all data should be made safe for machines before it goes on. They're not reading what you're writing. There's no human sitting there. It's not being passed off to the NSA or FBI or MI5 or MI6 or whatever. There's no 3-letter agencies involved in this. It's just your phone looking at things going, yeah, no, you're not going to be able to do that because that's not safe for you. And to an extent, it feels a little bit patronizing, your phone telling you what you can and cannot do. But basically, it's protecting you from yourself and protecting you from all of those bad people out there who can just type in a random number. And guess what? It turns out that's a valid phone number. That's your phone number and your phone's crashed. Until we come up with something more secure than the phone number or the email address for communicating, then we need something like this to keep us safe. And even when we come up with something more secure, we're going to need something to keep us safe anyway. So I'm glad that this is here.
Absolutely. And speaking of keeping us safe and keeping our data safe, Apple, it initially announced with the introduction of iOS 14 that it would be prompting users, or that it would require apps to prompt users for what was called app tracking transparency. And this was a change that was announced during WWDC. And then Facebook threw a huge fit about it, and Apple ended up delaying the change, saying that it wanted to give developers plenty of time to get this ironed out, get this figured out. And so for a while, we didn't have news on when Apple was going to be doing it. Then in the meantime, Facebook published like full page ads in newspapers and complained about it everywhere. And now practically every day I'm seeing a new headline about Mark Zuckerberg saying something about Apple. But Apple has said officially that in Apple's next beta update, this functionality was going to be made available. And in early spring, there will be an update to iOS 14 that will include this. So super awesome. Let me explain what's going on here. I described it yesterday, I think it was, as a snowball. So this is something that was already available and used by different apps and different services that wanted to track its users across different sites for the sake of kind of building a profile about someone. So if you can imagine, you log into Facebook, and when you log into Facebook, it snows and a little snowball is created, and that's you. And it's got, your name, your email, I'm trying to think of some basics. Your name, your email, if you've decided to put your address, and that's kind of how it starts. Then as you add friends on Facebook, the snowball gets bigger as it starts to roll. And as you click like on things on Facebook, the snowball gets bigger as it starts to roll even more. And it starts to, the snowball then a person can look at and go, oh, this person likes these things. This person is friends with these type of people who like these things, and start to understand who you are. But here's where things get even more intense. You now have this personally identifiable snowball that can be dropped, sort of transported and dropped in different places to collect even more snow. So I log into Amazon, say, and I start buying things. Snowball rolls and gets bigger because it's collecting that information about me. Then I go to some website, Etsy, and I click like on some things and buy some things there. The snowball gets bigger. I go to Pinterest and pin things on my board. The snowball gets bigger. And suddenly, Facebook and Pinterest and Amazon and Google and all these different big companies and small companies can look at this huge snowball of mine and go, this is Mikah Sargent. He has 2 dogs, we know. He is he likes to buy yarn patterns online. He is, left leaning. He is this. He is this. He's bi. He's, all these different things about me. And then they can use that information to decide what ads to market to me in particular. And that is a tool that is available to advertisers across so many different sites. And there is a way to opt out right now of having that information be shared. You can kind of reset your ID in different places, but it's often very buried and it's hard to figure out how to turn that on. So what Apple said was, we're not going to do that anymore. We're not just going to let apps track their users and not give them a clear way to opt out of it. We're going to give them a way to opt into it if they so choose. So with the introduction in spring of this, they give an example on the page where the prompt pops up as you open the Facebook app, and it says, allow Facebook to track your activity across other companies' apps and websites. Then Facebook can give a little bit of information in the app to say, this is why it's a good idea for us to let you track. And then you can say, no, I don't really want to do that. Or yes, I'm okay with the app doing that. So the only change here is instead of opting users in without their permission, you have to ask for permission. That's the change. Mm-hmm. That's the change that's taking place here. And that is the change that is making parties very upset. But privacy organizations and privacy advocates and I mean, me individually, and I'm sure you are all very excited and happy and looking forward to this change.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it. And I really do think that things like this shouldn't be a default opt-in. It should be a default opt-out, and then they can ask, and you will default to saying no, I would hope. Because why do we want to give the people who work at Facebook more data on us to sell? This is one of the reasons why I like Firefox as one of my machines, because it automatically can put Facebook and other social networks into a little sandbox where they only get their data and they can't help build that snowball that you were describing. And I think that's a great way to describe it because, that's what it is. They're trying to collect data on you and put all this data together. And
they want to build a snowman, Rosemary. They want to build a snowman of you.
I mean, that's great. They can go and play with that little data that they're going to get, but I'm not going to give them any more data than I have to use their services. And I do my best in the case of Facebook to avoid it to an extent. I can't avoid it completely, unfortunately. But I like not giving them more data than they absolutely have to run my account, because they're just going to sell it and use it to advertise to me. And sometimes I will admit those adverts on Instagram absolutely do work. At the same time, I get a lot of Instagram adverts for cat toys. Instagram clearly thinks I have multiple cats. I don't. I just love cats. And so I follow a lot of cat accounts on Instagram. So I'm really glad I've broken that there, because guess what? Adverts for cat toys don't work because I don't have a cat. So I click on them every once in a while just to train it incorrectly because it's fun. Why not? Nice.
I dig it. Yeah. So this will be good. I can't wait for the change. I'm looking forward to getting the beta version to give it a go, and just to have that satisfaction of saying, I say no, sir. And sort of smacking the hand and making it go away. So it can't build a snowman of me. Elsa. I don't even know if that's who builds the snowman. Anyway, let's move on to our next one. This is a new change in iOS 14.4 for the HomePod Mini. So I've talked before on this show and other shows about my excitement for the ultra-wideband chip and what Apple can do in the future with the ultra-wideband chip. And one of the first examples of the UWB functionality comes by way of a new type of handoff feature that is in the HomePod Mini's software update. So on the top of the HomePod is a touch-sensitive display, kind of. It is a display because it's got lights and things like that. And in my iPhone 12 Pro Max, I have an ultra wideband chip. And what the handoff experience, the way that it used to work is you would take your phone and you would bring it into the HomePod and tap it to the top of it. And then you could move music from the HomePod or from the iPhone to the HomePod that way. And you could do that with calls and things like that. But with the introduction of the software update, and I'll show, as I start to bring the phone closer, stretch it out here, to the HomePod, do you see that little notification that popped up? For those listening, there's a notification at the top that says, Mini HomePod, move, because I call it Mini, so that's why it's saying that. Move closer or tap for controls. And as I'm moving closer, there's this feeling within the iPhone. It does haptic vibrations, so it's going brrr, and the closer I get to the HomePod Mini, the stronger those vibrations get. And at the same time, it's kind of hard to see, but on the top of the HomePod Mini, watch as it gets brighter. So I'm bringing the phone in, and then it starts to get brighter up there. And as I get closer, then boom, it goes, okay, yeah, you definitely are trying to do something with the HomePod Mini, and you can tap play. So the way that it used to work was, I believe it was a Bluetooth deal, and it just kind of used the proximity. But ultra-wideband, which is a whole new kind of technology that is, it's much more accurate and much more pinpoint measurements between the two devices that can send out the ultra-wideband signal. You can get, I think it's up to even like millimeters of difference. So this just kind of improves upon that experience. Scooter X in the chat has included an excellent link to Bluetooth versus ultra wideband and how it works. So it's different to Bluetooth, and it's different to Wi-Fi. But anyway, point is, this is kind of the first example of this. It's kind of a silly one for sure. It has improved because there were some times where the HomePod Mini would not take the transfer from the handoff. And so this feels, it's more kind of just like, I think Matthew Castanelli put it best when we talked about this on Smart Tech Today. It's more about not feeling stupid. I feel very confident knowing that, yes, this is going to work because the phone is saying, I know what you're doing. Here's how I let you know that I know what you're doing. And then kind of confirms with that bump, bump, and the change on the top of the HomePod Mini. So when your devices can communicate with you to let you know that it understands what you're trying to do, that improves the experience overall. And that is what's happened here with this new version of handoff in the latest HomePod Mini.
I really like this. I have two HomePod Minis myself. I've got one in my kitchen and one in my bedroom, though I really wish this feature was here on the regular HomePod, because I've got a regular HomePod sitting right over here on my desk, and I have a Qi charger, which I keep accidentally moving a bit too close to the HomePod. And the problem with that is then I put my phone on the Qi charger and it picks up playback from my HomePod, and then suddenly the music that was playing everywhere, because I have a HomePod in here, I've got a HomePod in my living room, and HomePod Mini in the bedroom, a HomePod Mini in the kitchen, that pretty much covers, my whole place. My place is quite small, I will admit. And then suddenly the music that was everywhere is now playing back through my phone speaker. I almost never want that to happen. Like, I think maybe once in the entirety of the time that I've had a HomePod do I ever want to pick up playback. But no, it does that. And so I really wish that it would let me be a little bit more specific, and I would know that here as well, because I'd feel it vibrating and yank it away. And then I might finally move the Qi charger to the other side of my bed. Yeah. But I love the fact that in the kitchen, I love the fact that when I come home, I've had music playing on my phone in the car. I can just hit play and hold it over the HomePod Mini in the kitchen. I'll just pick it up, and then I can, get on with unpacking groceries, because let's be honest, that's pretty much the only time I leave the house right now. Yeah, exactly. So it's great that I can keep listening to that music or that podcast that I was listening to and have that HomePod. And I love, it sounds really weird, but the vibration feels quite satisfying when it then, clunks and it's handed off. It's great.
All right, it's time to move on to feedback and questions. Our first question comes from John. And I'm so excited, Rosemary. I know you've got the answers John seeks. So John writes in the episode that dealt with moving to iPhone, the one, and because Leo and I did an episode a while back talking about how to make the switch to iPhone because we saw a trend of more folks switching to iPhone with the introduction of the latest iPhone. So John says, the one thing I don't remember being mentioned is how those of us that have spent the last 15 years in Gmail and Google Contacts handle contacts on the iPhone. Ideally, what I would like is not to move or copy contacts to my Apple account, but to have the iPhone use and update or sync with my Google Contacts for phone and email while using Gmail as my primary email service. Is this possible, or is there software available to sync contacts in this way? John, I think we've got some good news for you, right?
Oh, yeah. We have some great news for John. So what you can do inside of the settings, I'm just scrolling down here to double check. So inside of settings, there's a section specifically for contacts. I'm just going to turn that into light mode to make it a little bit easier to see if you're watching the video version, John. You can have accounts here. And if you look at the accounts, you'll see I've got 6 accounts. Okay, so I have my iCloud account. And in here, you could just go through and once it's loaded, tap on iCloud, and then you can toggle off contacts. So you don't have to have those. I'm actually going to keep those on my phone and toggle that back on and merge that because I don't want to turn that off. For me, I like having my contacts in iCloud. But if you didn't like having your contacts in iCloud, so I have personal, and this is my personal email address, and it's a Google account. Okay, so I'm actually using G Suite, but this process is exactly the same if you're using Gmail. You can add an account, and then you can toggle on contacts right here, and then that will just be there. And I would suggest that if you just want to use Google Contacts, you toggle contacts off in iCloud and on in your Google account, and that's it, you're done. And then you can have all of the Google things that you want here. If we swipe back, then, for example, we can go into calendar and accounts, and it's the same thing. And you can pop in and you can turn on the calendar for that account. I need to re-enter the password for that account. And the same for mail. You don't have to use iCloud for anything except iCloud backups and storage. And so you can do everything that you want, John, without needing to actually put everything in iCloud. Now, at some point, you might want to do that. There are ways of doing that. You could simply go onto the Google website and export your contacts and import them on iCloud.com. And you could do that with an iPad or on a Mac. But if you just want to leave everything in Google, it's easy to do.
Beautiful. Beautifully put. Simply put. It's about just toggling some switches, John. And I'm so glad that it's that easy for you. Our next question comes from David. David says, I liked Leo, but I'm so glad Rosemary is now on iOS today. I had always enjoyed it when she substituted for him. Me too. She's great. That was me. That was my editorialization. I have tried to leave a review, but I can't figure out how to do it. Keep up the good work. David, thank you. We will keep up the good work. But we'll also show you how to leave a review on Apple Podcasts.
So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to open the Podcasts app on your iPhone or your iPad. I've got it here on my iPhone because I've been doing everything on my iPhone today. Turns out health data, not so great on the iPad. So let's stick with the iPhone. So the first thing you need to do is search for a show. Now, I'm not going to search for iOS today because I feel like leaving a review for the podcast that I co-host might be a little bit silly. So I've gone with MacBreak Weekly, another great show here on the network that if people haven't listened to, they might want to give a try. And you can have a look. Now, there are multiple versions of the TWiT shows. Okay, so there's an audio only version and there's a video version. So I'm just going to go for the audio version here. And then you can tap on the 3 dots here. And you can see a bunch of information, go ahead and subscribe and so on. But if you scroll down, then you can see all episodes. And then here is the part that we're looking for. Tap to rate. Now, I love MacBreak Weekly, so let's give that 5 stars to start with. That's the first thing you can do. So that's really easy. Takes seconds. Just tap on the 5 stars. But if you want to write a review, which, we'd love it if you did, then you can tap write a review and it'll pop up a screen. It'll take a moment to load. My Wi-Fi is very slow because I'm prioritizing my connection for my Mac here so that I can talk to everybody. And then you can add a title, something like love this show, with multiple exclamation marks, possibly. And then you go ahead and you write your review and you say why you love the show so much. And then once you're done, you tap send and that's it. So search for the podcast, scroll down to the bottom, give us 5 stars or however many stars you feel we're worthy of. And then underneath, if you want to, you can tap write a review. And that's how you do it.
Lovely. Lovely. Thank you so much, Rosemary, for answering John and David's questions today. We love your questions. If you have questions of your own, you can tell we love answering them. You send those to iostoday@twit.tv, and we will happily answer your question. You can send it in text format, but we also accept audio and video. Try to keep it under 30 seconds, and we will happily answer that question for you. And then you get to debut on the show. Your voice or your visage, as it were, will get to be a part of the show too. So we love it. iostoday@twit.tv. All righty. I'm checking my watch, my Apple Watch, and it appears that it's time for us to talk about our app caps.
I have a feeling today's hat is going to be very dramatic for you, Mikah. The fact that you've entirely disappeared. Oh, wow. That is impressive. I love that. I love that.
Thank you. Let's see. And it goes very well with this green jacket I'm wearing today.
It does. It does.
Right?
It looks brilliant on you. For people who are just listening, first of all, you might want to check the video version because we do show you things. And secondly, Mikah is wearing a wonderful, is that pastel pink wig?
Yeah, like a powdered pink wig, yeah.
Yeah,
and
it is beautiful. I love it.
Are rocking the sheriff hat there, pal.
Just another new kid in town.
This town is big enough for the two of us. All right. So, Rosemary, why don't you go ahead and tell us about your app? Oh, I forgot to say, app caps. Why are we wearing hats on our heads or wigs on our heads in my case? It is to be goofy, but also to honor our app picks of the week. These are the apps that are new that we're excited about, or apps that we've used for years or months or days that we really enjoy and we want to share with you. So, Rosemary, what is the app you are excited to tell our listeners about?
Well, I decided to stick with the theme of sleep because we were talking about that. And this is an app that I spotted. I can't remember where. I think somebody linked me to it on Twitter a while ago. And this is called Loona, L-O, and then O with an accent, but you can type it just an O and then N-A. And so this is a meditation app that's designed to help you fall asleep. And so I'm just going to jump into one of my sleepscapes, and I've turned off the music and everything. But basically, I have this shrine that I'm attempting to color in, and it's guiding me through different things, asking me to focus, in this case, on the steps. And now it wants me to find 10 paper cranes. And so I have to look for these paper cranes, and I have to tap on each one of them. But I can't do it until it lets me go through. So it has to tell me about it, and then I have to tap on each one, and it does this little animation as you tap on each one. So I need to go through and find some more. I think this might be one there. Oop. Nope, I'm not managing to tap on that one. Maybe that's not it. There's another one. There's one. And I just need to keep going and looking for things. And once you found the 10, then you're good and you can progress. But if you get stuck, this isn't something that's going to try and frustrate you. You can just tap on the challenge at the bottom, and it'll help you find the next one so that you've got an idea. Okay, this is where we're going. I got stuck earlier on this particular one on the dragon because I couldn't find the bottom of the pillars, just the way I had it positioned. But what I love about this is you can zoom in and out, and it's just beautiful. And I've set this up to be based on my preferences. So that's fantasy. I wanted something a bit mysterious and beautiful and interesting. And I just really love this. It's very calming. And I love the fact that it's there saying, okay, now look at this particular thing. So it really guides you through that meditation because it's asking you to focus on this very specific part of this scene so that you look at it and you enjoy it. And then you have 3 golden toads in this particular case. So I just need to color in the rope and then color in the coins. And I think there must be one more toad. There we go. And let's just color him in. And there we go. And he is my
so cool.
mythological creature. I love it. And it's so calming. And I just like doing this. It's something that I can do while I'm, waiting for some food in the oven or something like that, or for the laundry to finish, so that I have something to calm me down. But I also like using this before I go to bed. They do recommend that you do it with headphones. So if you're going to wear AirPods with it, then you're probably going to want to make sure that you don't wear your AirPods and lose them in bed. I will just exit the app because it's now talking at me again, and it's a little bit difficult to concentrate on what I'm saying while I'm hearing it talk. But that's something that you can actually turn off as well. And it's got music and everything. I turned that off for this just because it's very calming and zen, and that's not particularly great when I'm trying to talk to you and tell you about the app. But I really love it, and it works really well. The app itself is free, and there is a premium option. The first year is half price. I think the first year is $20, and then after that it's about $40 a year. Of course, the price will vary depending on what country you're in and what currency you're using. But I really like it, and I find that it really is just a lovely way to calm down and zen out a little bit. And it's the first kind of guided meditation that I've genuinely enjoyed because it's got an active element to it. And to start with, I was getting frustrated because I couldn't tap on things and go to the next one. But then, I realized that it's forcing me to slow down. So I really enjoy it.
Gotcha. Yeah. So good that the frustration disappeared, because that meant it wasn't doing its job. I'm glad that you got it ironed out and figured out.
Yes.
That's Loona. Yes, yeah. I am downloading that immediately because that
it's so beautiful.
Like
I really love it. It feels very polished and calming and zen. And, it works really well with the whole going to sleep thing. So, that's perfect for today's theme.
Absolutely. Mine is not perfect for today's theme, but I did want to get it talked about because it is quickly becoming a very popular app and, I guess, service that exists online, a social network sort of, and that is Clubhouse. So Clubhouse is a place to, sorry, my hair is getting into my eye a little bit. Clubhouse is a place to listen to folks talk and a place to gather to have conversations. So when I launched the app, I've been invited. I think it's still a closed service, so you have to either wait in line or you can get an invite from someone. So if you don't have one yet, Rosemary, and you want to check it out, I've got 7 invites. I'd be happy to give you one.
Ooh, yes, please.
And all right, great. I will definitely do that right after this is over. So there are different rooms here that are kind of suggested to me based on topics that I have said that I enjoy. And so there's, should I become a UX or a user experience designer? Let's exercise together. So the concept of body doubling, that things become easier when other people are doing them with you and you feel like they are. Then a new book, for example. Then we can kind of go on to explore a bunch of different ones. New trends, business ideas and opportunities, biblical smoke, which I'm not sure exactly what that one's about, Dogecoin, mindset hacks for entrepreneurs, and entrepreneur Q&A, voiceover pros. So here are just some examples of different things. Oh, the psychedelic news hour, the immortality key. So I might find something that I find interesting, which I'm not saying anything at the moment, but I'll just tap on the let's exercise together so that you can see kind of how the room works. When I come into here, you see these people at the top. Oh dear. Okay, so let me actually leave this. So it's giving me a notification saying, hey, we know that you have your device plugged in, and if you're recording, that's a no-no and you can get suspended. I don't want to get suspended, so I can't quite show you. But maybe, Anthony, does this app have video or anything like that on its site where we could show what the screen looks like? Maybe it doesn't, but basically within each of those rooms, there's a place at the top that's kind of like the stage, and that's where individuals are, and they up there will be able to talk. And then below those people is where you can just kind of be in the room and listen, and you don't have a voice. You just can listen to who's speaking. You can ask to be invited to speak. So in some places where there are panels, that's what you do. And You can also create rooms for yourself and for your friends. And so, for example, my co-host Matthew Casanelli and I the other day joined a room with some other folks in sort of the podcasty, techie corner of the internet, and we all just kind of got together and chatted. It wasn't even a public thing. It was a private room. We were just there to have a conversation with each other. So it's kind of a laid back place to just have conversations, but it can turn into like panels and things like that. Renee Ritchie gave an example of a room where he was kind of learning about YouTube retention rates or something like that. So there's all sorts of stuff that you can go and check out on the site, on the app. But it is still a closed network. And as you can see, they're very protective. I got a notification letting me know, hey, if you're recording this, that's not cool and you might get banned. So hopefully that one little oopsie doesn't get me in trouble. But the point is they want to make it so that folks feel free to communicate without having to worry about themselves being recorded. Because for you and I, Rosemary, this is my day job. And so I kind of almost always expected that if I'm speaking into some microphone somewhere, I'm being recorded. It's kind of what I do. And I know, you're comfortable with that too as a podcaster. And so for us, we don't have a problem sitting in front of a microphone and speaking. But for some people, they may want to speak, but they don't feel comfortable with the idea of having it recorded and played back later by other people or what have you. So it's the intention there is to get people who normally wouldn't be okay with speaking, and to kind of make the conversation flow. I think it's a really neat idea. It's available for free in the App Store. As I said, you can either kind of sign up and get in line to join, or you can get an invite. But it's an interesting place where I've seen a lot of interesting conversations taking place. So I wanted to talk about that, but I don't recommend it right before you go to bed because there are some stressful conversations that take place there for sure.
Well, that's the thing. You've always got to be careful about what you do right before bed, including whether or not it's smart to eat cheese. So I think I might eat some cheese after this and then take a while before I go to bed just to make sure I don't have nightmares.
That's a very good idea. Yes. A cheese before bed. It'll knock you dead. Folks, thank you so much for tuning in to yet another episode of iOS Today. If you are tuning in live, then you know how to find us. It's twit.tv/live. And that is a place where you can go every Friday to check us out. But of course, the best way to get the show is by downloading the show, by subscribing to the show. And how do you do that? Well, you go to twit.tv/iOS. And when you go there, you can subscribe to the show in audio and video formats across loads of different services: Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Pocket Casts, Spotify, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And as Rosemary Orchard showed earlier, it's super simple to leave a review. We would appreciate it if you did so. It's very helpful to us, and we thank you. And the survey, the TWiT audience survey, is ending in February. So you definitely want to hop in there and get that survey filled out. You go to twit.tv/survey21. And by heading to that link, twit.tv/survey21, you fill out those answers. And of course, we don't have, personally identifiable information like your email or anything like that. This just gives us a basic idea of the audience that's out there listening. So if you want your voice heard, then get there, twit.tv/survey21. Rosemary Orchard, if folks want to follow you online, where can they go to do so?
The best place is probably rosemaryorchard.com. And then you can also find me on Twitter at Rosemary Orchard and in the TWiT forums at twit.community under the handle Rosemary Orchard, where there is a post for every episode. Micah, where can people find you?
Well, you can head to chihuahua.coffee, chihuahua.coffee, which is a site that has links to all the places I exist online. But if that's hard to remember, you can just use my name. I'm at Mikah Sargent on pretty much all of the social media networks, and appreciate having conversations with you there. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Rosemary Orchard, for yet another excellent episode of iOS Today. Goodbye, folks.
Hey, folks, I'm Matt Pruitt, host of Hands of Photography here on TWiT TV. I know some of you have gotten yourself a brand new camera, or you just had a camera sitting around and can't quite figure out how to get the most out of it. Well, I have a solution. my show, Hands on Photography. So subscribe right now to learn how to get the most out of that camera. I'm going to show you how to make those images pop. I don't care if it's a Canon camera. I don't care if it's a Sony, Nikon, iPhone, Android, even an inexpensive Android device. I got you covered. So head on over to twit.tv/hop and subscribe today.